Irma Grese is maybe the most notorious female concentration camp guard convicted in the post-World War II era. Often pictured dressed in her jackboots and high-waisted belt, she lives on in the collective memory of the public as a paragon of evil. She is often taken to be a central reference point within the popular literature on mass murderers and evil women more generally. She was the epitome of inhuman sadism, torture beyond belief, and extravagant murder, Glyn-Jones says. Irma Ilse Ida Grese Alfred was born in the small village of Recken, in the southeast of Mecklenburg, situated in a typical pastoral northern German area. Irma's father had been a member of the NSDAP since 1937. He supported himself as a dairy laborer. His wife Bertha, with whom he had 5 children, committed suicide in 1936. Although the cause of her death is yet unknown, marital issues appear to be its cause. As she got older, Irma Grese aspired to join the Bund Deutscher Mädel, or BDM, the Nazi youth group for girls. Her father prevented her from doing so since he thought it was too risky for the little girl. Irma dropped out of school in Recken when she was 15 years old in 1938. This was due to poor academic performance and bullying by classmates. She enlisted in the RAD. The RAD was a military-styled Arbeitsdienst, or labor service for boys and girls. Grese finished a so-called Lanyar with the RAD. Grese enlisted for the SS as a Helferin, a broad name for all female SS troops, in 1942. The SS Helferinnen were classified as lower than any other male SS personnel. Women were not recognized as full SS members, but rather as auxiliary personnel, as reflected by the name of their rank. They were not permitted to issue directions to male workers. Nonetheless, training for female camp guards was quite similar to training for male guards. The women took courses ranging from 1 to 6 months in length. Female head guards taught the classes. The students were taught how to punish convicts and how to detect sabotage and other anti-camp acts. They were also taught how to humiliate and abuse female prisoners. After finishing the course, one was designated as an official Aufseherin, or supervisor. Aufseherin referred to a regular guard, the lowest rank among the guards. After that, one could advance to become an Erstaufseherin, Rapportführerin, Oberaufseherin, or Lagerführerin. Only 2 women ever held the highest rank for female personnel, Chef Oberaufseherin. One was Louise Brunner in Auschwitz-Birkenau and Anna Klein in Ravensbrück. Grese stated during her post-war interrogation that she was sent to this camp by the Labor Office and that it was not her choice. Grese, who was only 18 years old, was paid 54 Reichsmark, which was significantly less than the salary of the other guards. Grese was taught at Ravensbrück by the infamous Dorothea Binz, who spent her whole career with the SS. She was the chief trainer and, like Grese, preferred unusual and brutal methods of torturing female inmates. Grese visited her family in Recken regularly while living in Ravensbrück. These visits sparked arguments with her father, who was allegedly opposed to her work in the camps. He eventually barred her from returning to his house. Irma Grese was sent to Auschwitz-Birkenau in March 1943, where she earned the nicknames Beautiful Beast, Blonde Angel of Death, Blonde Angel from Hell, and Hyena of Auschwitz. She would begin her work at Außenkommandos, as she had done at Ravensbrück. After temporarily working as a post censor, she was promoted to head of the sector BIIC, often known as the C Lager or C Camp, at the request of her direct superior, Maria Mandel. Meanwhile, she was elevated to Oberaufseherin, the second highest position a woman could achieve in a camp. From the summer of 1944 to the summer of 1945, 20,000 to 30,000 women would be imprisoned here under horrific conditions at the mercy of Irma Grese. Her good looks, with wide blue eyes and long blonde hair, were observed even by the convicts, as other survivors claimed. There are testimonies that she had nymphomaniac tendencies and sexually abused both male and female prisoners. As previously stated, the conditions in the Auschwitz-Birkenau women's camp were beyond description. Tens of thousands of convicts were crammed into 62 barracks without proper drinking water, and diseases like tuberculosis, typhus, and dysentery. Irma Grese sowed death and destruction in this atmosphere. Irma was not only beautiful, but she was also famed for her unending harshness and capriciousness. Grese wielded authority over tens of thousands, and she had the power to destroy hundreds at any time. Many survivors testified in detail about Grese's killings, abuses, and sexual excesses in Auschwitz during the post-war trial. She also took part in SS Dr. Mengeles selections, was responsible for roughly 30 killings per day, beat prisoners incessantly, let her starved dogs loose on prisoners, and mistreated prisoners for her cruel bisexual pleasures. Grese was taken to Ravensbrück with a prisoner transport on January 18, 1945, after the Germans left Auschwitz ahead of the swiftly approaching Red Army. Her stay would be brief because the camp was forced to be evacuated in early March. Grese left with a group of female inmates bound for Bergen-Belsen. She would labor for another 2 months as Arbeitsdienstführer and under-camp commander Josef Kramer, with whom she is also said to have had an affair. During the time Grese was there, the population of the Bergen-Belsen camp had grown to almost 90,000. It had turned into a gathering camp for prisoners evacuated from Auschwitz, Buchenwald, and Ravensbrück. The overcrowded camp was also hit by a typhus epidemic as a result of the camp's deplorable conditions. The situation got increasingly unstable, and the coming of British forces was a huge relief for the inmates. Many would die even after being liberated as a result of protracted mistreatment, hunger, and a lack of shelter. On April 15, 1945, the British seized Josef Kramer, Irma Grese, and the SS guards who had stayed in the camp. They were forced to assist in the burying of thousands of deceased captives in mass graves in the days that followed. Grese was eventually sent to the Chell jail outside Lüneburg. After the trial, Irma Grese was sent to the Westphalian jail at Hameln to await her execution. The Royal Engineers of the Royal Army built a room inside the prison for the execution. The gallows were built at the end of a tiny corridor where prisoners sentenced to death were housed in small cells. Because with every execution, the captives in the cells could hear the trapdoor from the gallows. Given her age, it was decided to hang Grese first. The renowned Albert Pierrepoint, who had already executed 400 condemned prisoners at the time, was flown in from Britain for the execution. The guilty were weighed and measured on December 12, 1945, so that the hangman could calculate the necessary adjustments for the gallows for the execution the next day. Albert Pierrepoint slipped a white cloth cap over the head of a bonny, blonde-haired young German woman on Friday, December 13, 1945, and continued to tighten a noose around her neck. "Schnell," she whispered as he placed her feet on the white chalk markings atop the hangman's trapdoor. Pierrepoint agreed and drew the lever to the trap, causing the door to fall. Her lifeless body will hang motionless within Hameln jail's execution chamber for the next 20 minutes before being removed, put in a coffin, and sent to the prison yard for burial. Irma Ilse Ida Grese, the youngest woman hanged under British law in the 20th century, died at the age of 22. The beautiful beast of Belsen has entered public collective consciousness as one of the greatest war criminals of World War II, if not the most renowned, as one of the few women widely thought to be guilty of crimes against humanity.